What is up? Oh my goodness. Telling you what, guys, I didn't think that it could get any worse for Sean Puffy Combs. And now here we are, a live interview. Someone has gone live, okay, on CNN to discuss their horrifying experience with P. Diddy, okay? And I'm about to show you guys that video. I've actually not even watched the video yet. I heard that they went live. I said, you know what? I'm going to bring this to the people in real time. Let me take these dumbass glasses off. I said, you know what? This is going to happen in real time for both of us. We're going to look at it in real time. All right? So, guys, I shit you not. The details coming from this individual, if this stuff is true, I have nothing to say except P. Diddy is just pure evil incarnate. I mean, I've heard like maybe 30 seconds of it, and just within the first 30 seconds, I was like, you almost can't wrap your brain around how someone could be so evil to just take so much delight and enjoy seeing another person in pain or hurting. You get my drift? All right, let's watch it. I'm going to share this to you guys. Share. All right, here we go.
According to your lawsuit, you were hired by a security firm to work security at one of the infamous white parties that was thrown by Sean Combs in the Hamptons. What was that experience like?
At first, he was incredibly friendly, very gracious.
So you had a friendly chat, and then according to your lawsuit, at some point later in the night, Sean Combs himself offered you a drink. This didn't come from staff or someone holding a tray of drinks. It came from him directly.
Correct. The first drink started to have some effect on me. And I just thought, wow, these are really strong drinks. It wasn't until the second drink, and it was already too late, that I realized that there was something wrong with the drinks. Sadly, Sean Combs was waiting in the wings. He was watching from some sort of vantage point. And once I was in a helpless position and he was sure that he was in a position of power, then he took advantage of the situation.
You allege that you were forcibly pushed into an SUV by Sean Combs. That act alone, according to your lawsuit, left you in considerable pain. And then once inside the vehicle, your lawsuit says plaintiff was held down by Combs, who overpowered him while he struggled to escape due to the effects of the drugs in his system. And it goes on to say that he sodomized you.
I was screaming.
Wow.
I was telling him to stop.
And of course we get an ad. Of course we continue. Please, sir.
Incredibly painful. And he was acting like it was nothing. And he seemed to be disconnected from it. But it was abusive beyond belief.
All right, let's pause this for any of the people that may be slower and more methodical readers like myself. Representatives for Combs did not comment, but at the time of the original complaint, released a blanket statement regarding the complaint and others filed at the same time. Mr. Combs and his legal team have full confidence in the facts, their legal defenses, and the integrity of the judicial process. In court, the truth will prevail that Mr. Combs has never.
All right, seen as Elizabeth Wagner.
See, they expect you to be like a speed reader. In court, the truth will prevail that Mr. Combs has never sexually assaulted anyone, adult or minor, man or woman.
All right, seeing as Elizabeth Wagmeister, who's doing really amazing reporting on this subject, is here with your exclusive. What was it like to sit down with this man?
You know, John, this was the first time that he has told anyone other than his attorneys this story. He, as you see, we concealed his identity. He filed his lawsuit back in October as a John Doe. He says that he wants to keep his anonymity because he wants to keep some semblance of his life private. But that's a difficult thing to do, to sit down and tell your story to a stranger as a journalist. So I asked him, why now? Why are you coming forward now? And he said that he did not know that there were other accusers of Sean Combs out there. He only found out from seeing news reports. And there was one report he saw that there is somebody who alleged that they were 9 years old when they say that they were abused by Sean Combs. And this John Doe that I sat down with, he said, if a 9-year-old could do it, then I could do it. And it made him feel like he wished that he spoke out before because he could have prevented children from allegedly being abused. Now, as I said, this lawsuit was initially filed back in October of this year. So these claims are not new, but this is the first time that he sat down. In fact, John, this is the first time that any accuser of Sean Combs has sat down with the media for an interview. Now, I want to play you a bit more of what he told me about these allegations, what he says happened that night in 2007. But I do want to warn our viewers that what he says is graphic and disturbing.
I was screaming.
So guys, if you have anyone in the room that you do not want to hear this, especially children or anything like that, this would be a good time to take them out of the room, come back and look at this once you are all by yourself. You heard what the lady said, very graphic.
I was telling him to stop. It was incredibly painful. And he was acting like it was nothing. And he seemed to be disconnected from it. It was abusive beyond belief.
Now, he says that not a day has gone by where he hasn't thought about this. He said that when something like this happens to you, which is, of course, his allegation that he was drugged and sodomized by Sean Combs back in 2007, he says that it impacts every part of your life. He says that he has not been able to carry on with relationships. Mm-hmm. He says that he did not tell his wife at the time, who he was married to when this allegedly happened to him. He hasn't told family members or coworkers. And again, that is one of the big reasons why he wants to remain anonymous.
Wow. Wow.
Tell the story. All right, Elizabeth Wagmeister, thank you very much. Sarah.
All right, joining us now, CNN legal analyst and criminal defense attorney Joey Jackson to discuss more about this. All right, first of all, this is a civil lawsuit. Yes. It is not part of the criminal prosecution, but in hearing this, and now that he is coming out to speak, could it?
Just, by the way, in case you're new to all of this, the reason this is a civil case as opposed to a criminal case is because it's been, 14, 17 years since these allegations, or since this supposedly took place, right? So the statute of limitations has long passed.
Could it be?
So we'll see. There's a lot that has to be unpacked, right? The first thing is remember, Sarah, that this was an amended complaint. Why do I say that? And why is that significant? It's significant because initially when it was filed in October, there was the indication that it happened in 2007, right? Learning, however, that P. Diddy was in St. Tropez then, so it could not have happened then. So it was amended to include right, the year after. Okay, that's a problem. There was also the indication initially that, right, he wasn't married, and now we're learning he is. Why do I say that? Because every case turns on its facts. So if you're going to determine, right, civil, it's a civil case, it involves monetary damages, not criminal, you're going to assess the credibility of it. Now, attorneys for, of course, P. Diddy are going to have a field day with that, of course, because when you sit down with your lawyer, you verify. Your lawyer doesn't say, oh, that's what happened. Okay. You verify it, you vet it, you ensure that it's factually accurate. And so therefore, I think those two distinctions are going to be very important. Would you have not known that you were married at this time? Would you have not known? Should you have shared it with your spouse? Potentially not. It's embarrassing, but did you know you were married at all? Did you know where you were, when you were, etc.? So it's a question of fact, and I think it'll be vetted certainly by criminal investigators to determine whether or not it's useful, and then it'll be up to the judge to determine whether it is admissible.
I am curious about something. He told our Elizabeth Wagmeister there that he'd not told anyone about this until he spoke, I think, to his attorneys. How difficult will it be to prove this?
So what ends up happening is that, you know, there's a lot of embarrassment and a lot of shame, right? And there's a lot of sensitivity as it relates to victims. And sometimes you have victim, and it's called recent outcry information, where they'll say something to a friend, I can't believe it. That's powerful evidence. In some circumstances, there's humiliation and they don't. And there are experts who will testify to that. On the issue of proof, however, there's the indication that a celebrity was present. That's according to this particular victim, Elizabeth doing an excellent job in that interview. But there was the issue of, hey, there's a celebrity present. Does that celebrity come forward? There's the indication that he told his supervisor, he being the victim who worked for a private security company, telling his supervisor. Will the supervisor come forward? Did anybody else know? So these are all questions of proof. And to the extent that you have corroboration, meaning it's not just you, there's other people, it's easier to establish your claim.
And speaking of this idea of shame that victims often feel, this victim has not wanted to be named. He's not named in the suit. He is still a John Doe. How long can that last? Because at some point, right, that has to change, correct?
So, yes. So, Sarah, it's up to the discretion of the judge. And what the judge does is a balancing test between your right to privacy, intimidation, humiliation, a number of other factors, right? To what extent could you be retaliated against, et cetera, versus the public interest. And also, right, the party you're suing certainly has an interest. And so a judge will assess various factors, weigh those factors, and make an assessment as to whether or not the John Doe continues or it ends.
Joey Jackson, it is always a pleasure. You always get through all of the hard details with us, and I really appreciate it.
Pleasure's mine. Good to see you.
All right. So again, with a civil case like this, the end game is always monetary damages. Now, I've said multiple times when I'm doing videos or covering this whole P. Diddy thing, I also said the same thing with the Conor McGregor thing, that it is a sad, scary fact. Mark, what's up, brother? It is a sad, scary fact that there are people in this world that will take somebody through hell and back just to make a few of these. And they will accuse someone of doing just about anything to get some of this. That green-eyed monster, those Benjamins, is a very, very powerful thing. And as he said right there, this is something that if the person that was supposedly with him when this sodomy took place is not willing to come forward and testify that he witnessed this with his own eyes happening, right? And then he said that he went back and he told his boss, that was his immediate supervisor at the security job he was working at that time. At that case, if that security supervisor is not willing to also come forward and testify that this John Doe character did in fact come to him and say, hey, I had so-and-so happen. If these two things don't happen, then it's going to be very difficult for this to be proven. Now, it is a civil case. It's not a criminal case. Therefore, it doesn't have to be proven beyond reasonable doubt like a criminal case does. The burden of proof is much lower, and it's more like a preponderance of probability. You know, how likely is it based on everything being heard? Okay. But this is the kind of thing when I hear this. Now, listen, I have to accept the fact that this just sounds completely and utterly outlandish to me. Like, why would someone, anyone, including P. Diddy, do something like this? It just sounds horrible and disgusting, other than it's just a complete act of a power play. If he's just so incredibly so incredible, well, he was money hungry too, so incredibly hungry for power and control over any chess piece that might be on his board, and meaning in his life, right? That he's so hungry for that control that he would do something this horrible, this evil, this disgusting. Now, the thing is, too, when they talk about sodomizing, we don't know exactly what that means. Okay. Was this copulation? I mean, I hate to get, but was he having sex with this individual? Did he penetrate him with his penis? Was he using something else to penetrate him? Obviously, something was penetrating him if there was sodomy involved. That's what sodomy is, getting something stuck up your bungus, right? Bungus. I mean, it's true. But when you look at something like this, to me, this is iffy. Where were you, guy? And see, again, I'm going to sound like a Diddy sympathizer, and I'm absolutely not. He was obviously a horrible person. Okay. And I've been dragged through the coals on here more than once for even insinuating that some of these people that are coming out of the woodwork and making these accusations now could potentially, especially because the statute of limitations on a criminal case is long gone, right? So all of these people that are coming out of the woodwork now saying X, Y, and Z, they're in it for one thing, bro. They're in it for what? That. Because that's the only thing they could be in it for. They couldn't be in it for anything else. A criminal case is not possible at this point because of the statute of limitations, right? So the end game with these civil cases is always this, right? And then you have to think, where were you then? How come this is just now coming up years later? Okay, well, he was embarrassed. And then the guy couldn't remember whether he was married at the time. What was the other detail? There was another detail that was extremely scary. Oh, wait. At first, he said it happened in 2007. And then after looking back at it, Diddy was somewhere completely different in 2007. And so basically, the chronological timeline just didn't work. There's no way that Diddy could have done it in the year of 2007, as this guy claimed, right? So then he went back and amended his original complaint, which was only placed in October, 2 months ago, right? He goes back and amends his original complaint to say, oh, well, must have been 2008 then, right? And, we're so quick on the internet to just, it's not guilty until proven innocent on the internet. On the internet, it's guilty as hell until you get absolved of it in a court of law. And then we'll still probably think you're guilty, right? But if you even insinuate that some of these people out here are opportunists or social piranhas trying to get a nibble of this big fish, they see that he's injured. They see that he's in a compromised position. They see that he's in jail. They see that he has no ability to fight back right now. And they're like, well, you know what? There was that one time, back in 2007 where I spent a little bit of time around Diddy, and I am about $150,000 in credit card debt. Maybe I can, say blah, 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 blah. And hell, I mean, everything that he's being accused of right now, hell, they probably believe me. It's worth a shot. I'm going for it. And there are people out there that would do shit like that. But if you even insinuate that on the internet, people are like, people want him to pay for all the depraved things he did. I can't believe you're on here defending P. Diddy. Not defending anyone, right? But how you feel personally about what somebody might have or might not have done is completely irrelevant in a court of law, okay? And especially when it comes to a civil case, it matters. It matters deeply, because if this man is lying just to make a quick buck, and he can't get, he can't get his boss at that time to come forward and lie on his behalf and say, would you mind coming and saying that I did make a complaint that something happened that night, or and then the fact that he couldn't even remember what year that it happened in, so he had to change that later. And then he went back and couldn't remember if he was married at that time. At first he said he was married, then it turns out later he wasn't married at the time. I mean, it's the same thing with the Conor McGregor case. It's one of those things when you have these people that are coming out of the woodwork, and you can't help but, I mean, it becomes painfully obvious at times that, granted, it was a long time ago. Probably, if it did happen, was probably a very traumatic event. So you have to consider that, and you have to give the guy credit for that. If you got, brutally sodomized by somebody as powerful as P. Diddy, then I guess it's fair to say you might have some trouble remembering that traumatic event. So, being an objective and a practical person, I have to also hold myself to that same standard. Okay. So I'll take a step back and say, okay, dude, all right, hold on now. It's probably pretty traumatic if that happened to him. Maybe the dude forgot whether he was married. Maybe he forgot what year it was. Maybe it's one of those things that he just shoved it down into the basement of his subconscious and tried to forget about it. You can't blame him. It's not really something that you would want to remember. But the problem comes in when these people make a play for these civil cases that only result in monetary damages. But then on top of it, they're screwing up details right and left. It's like, come on. If we all want Diddy to pay for all of the depraved things that he has done. Everybody wants that. Okay. Everybody wants that. But when I see stuff like this, it is a stark reminder to me that there are people out there that are just trying to make a buck. Okay. I'm not saying this John Doe isn't, but then you look at the details, like he didn't know that he was married, couldn't remember what year it was, and, all these things, and you're like, okay, all right, well, and he already knows that this isn't going to help keep Diddy in jail. This is a civil case, okay? Nothing that he is saying or doing on CNN is going to make any difference in the world in what kind of jail time Diddy gets, right? Of course, on the flip side of that same coin, he may not give a shit. His thought process might be like, well, hell, he's already in jail anyway. I mean, the racketeering and sex trafficking thing alone, he'll probably be there for the rest of his life. So I don't have to worry about the criminal aspect of things. Just pay me. Could be what he's thinking. And hey, if this is something that actually did happen to him, he deserves damages. He deserves the money. I mean, I do wonder why it took him 17 years to come out of the closet with it, or, then again, I've never been sodomized by a famous celebrity either. So I guess I can't really speak on that. I'm sure it would be utterly humiliating and embarrassing, and something that if it did actually happen, you have to think from his perspective, it had to have been really, really demeaning and painful, not just physically, but emotionally. And then on top of it, to be afraid to come forward because you know what kind of influence and power that this individual has. So on top of it all, you're ashamed, you're embarrassed, you know, and then on top of all of that, you're afraid to come forward because you're afraid nobody will believe you. Because at that time, you know, Diddy had been able to keep his name, you know, kind of low key, for lack of a better word. But that's it, guys. I just want to show it to you. This is the first time that we've seen live on CNN or a live interview of one of his accusers, right? When I first saw it, I thought it was the 13-year-old that were making the accusations against him and Jay-Z. But then when I looked at it, I was like, oh, this is a different accuser. There's so freaking many, man. You can't keep up with them. But I just wanted to get this out there. And look, check it out. If these stories are true, if this is true of P. Diddy, you just can't say anything except this man is just evil incarnate, right? Because some of this stuff that's getting told at this point, it's fringing on, you know, not even being sexually desirable. You know, I mean, not to be any sort of way, but this man looked, you know, he's a security worker, you know, a balding, chubby guy with glasses. Now, I don't know how he looked in 2007. Maybe he was the man then. Maybe P. Diddy was attracted to him. I don't know. But there's talks as to whether P. Diddy was even homosexual, but that he was doing this more so as a measure of control, you know, just to show people, I can do this to you because I'm P. Diddy. And what P. Diddy wants, P. Diddy gets, because P. Diddy has all of the power in the world over you. And I'm about to show you how much power and control I have by making you do something that I know you don't want to do. But because I'm who I am, I can make you do it, right? I mean, we're fringing on that sort of behavior. Like, because when I hear this, I'm like, P. Diddy probably didn't even want to do this. This would have been something that he's just doing it just because he knows that it is gonna fuck this guy's life up. I mean, that's evil incarnate right there. You can't say anything but that it's just evil. You know, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go, but I will be very, very interested to learn what actually comes out of all of this. You know, what charges actually end up, what he actually ends up getting charged with before it's all said and done and all over with. I mean, it's going to be years probably before, but with all of this stuff that's coming out now, it's going to be years before we actually know anything, you know, about what he did or what he didn't do. But I will be very curious to see where Diddy ends up and how long he ends up there. I don't know. Comment down below, guys. Let me know what you think. It's kind of breaking news. Just happened a few hours ago, so I wanted to give it to you. Hope you guys have a good day. Subscribe to the channel. Like the video. Don't forget to leave a comment. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.